And the Confederated tribe ceded this land in the Treaty of 1855 while retaining regular and customary hunting, fishing, and gathering rights. The Northern Paiute, the Wasco, and the Warm Springs people inhabited this area seasonally and clearly established their presence here. And we would like to acknowledge and thank the stewards of this land. And I want to thank, yes, thank you. And I would like to thank my two colleagues from OSU Ecampus, Elizabeth O'Brien and Heather Garcia, who provided the research and information about that so that I could include this in our presentation. Okay. Well, as I'm an instructional designer, so you guys know that as instructional designers just have to start with learning outcomes. It's just what we do, right? So I want to remind everyone of today's agenda and what we're intending to accomplish. So we're going to be describing and showing examples from 3 eCampus STEM courses that used media to increase student engagement and interest. We'll describe the specific processes. Actually, these two gentlemen will describe the processes that our team applied to produce these media elements, as well as discussing some of the benefits that the instructors and the students were benefited from. And at the end, we're going to share out a list of resources that are available to help you produce similar kinds of output. We recognize that not every institution has a big media team like we do, so we wanted to share some other ways to accomplish these same kinds of things. Before we get into the meat of our presentation, we want to give you a bit of history and information about Oregon State and eCampus. So Oregon State recently celebrated its 150th anniversary. We were very proud about that. We have 2 campuses in the state, our main campus in Corvallis and the Cascades campus, which is right here in Bend. We serve students across the nation and across the globe. Oregon State delivers more than 50 degrees and programs online through eCampus in partnership with various colleges and departments. eCampus serves more than 9,000 students, and since 2002, more than 5,000 students have earned an Oregon State degree. And we are very proud to say that Oregon State eCampus has been ranked in the top 10 in the nation per the U.S. News and World Report research, and for our online bachelor's programs. And we've achieved that status for the last 5 years, most recently ranked at number 3. So how is our division sort of laid out? We have 3 functional units. We have the main eCampus unit, which is where the courses are delivered, the online learning portion. The OER portion, which is the division that focuses on the creation, publication, and use of open educational resources. And our award-winning research unit, which focuses on conducting and publishing research on and for online learning. Oh, sorry, I almost forgot something. And Austin, Zach, and I are part of the course development and training subgroup from eCampus. The other groups manage things like enrollment and administration, marketing, things like that. And our procedure for developing new courses or redeveloping courses is over 2 terms. And the first term, the faculty members who do the development are primarily organized or involved in doing professional development and training workshops. And then during that second term, before their term of delivery, they're doing specific content development, including the media, and that's when we build the course. So let's get into the heart of this and find out what about making media meaningful. Today we're going to be presenting examples from 3 STEM courses: Introduction to Statistics, Cell and Molecular Biology, and Allied Health Microbiology. And we'll start, We'll start with Introduction to Statistics. We must have a gremlin in the room. I didn't even touch the computer. Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Just in time.
Taking revenge.
Okay, this is interesting. What do you guys think? You're the media experts. Okay. All right. Let's see if it'll stabilize. Okay, so statistics have some very specific challenges. This instructor really wanted to spice up his materials because a lot of the information can be very dry, also known as boring. He teaches his students how to design effective research studies, like the hypothesis and different things like that. And as part of his example, he uses a real study that a high school student had developed, where she determined whether people, when they're blindfolded, can walk in a straight line or whether they tend to walk in circles. That was her research. And so he uses that footage. She had videotaped her research, and he uses footage from her experiment as part of his learning. And he wanted a way to lay the foundation for that in a more exciting way, because explaining all the setup and the research hypothesis was kind of boring. And so he came to us and said, what can we do? So the solution developed was an animation using very relatable characters, students having a casual conversation in a school setting. There's a little bit of humor, although I don't think the clip you're going to get to see has much humor in it. But and we tried to keep the dialogue very simple and straightforward and to the point. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague. He's going to demonstrate the process to create this animation using Fein motion capture.
All right, thank you, Susan. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to show kind of like the process of how I created it, and then also show what I made. So as she mentioned, to make the subject of statistics more interesting and engaging, we decided an animation was the best route to spark their interest at the beginning of the course. But character animation normally takes a long time to create, especially the longer and longer the video is. It's also difficult to capture the subtle movements of the head, the eyes, and other gestures that are normally present when humans interact. This brings me to the point of why I used facial motion capture to create the animation for this class. It's faster, it's more efficient, and it breathes life into the characters. In a moment, I'm going to show you a video going through the process of creating the animation, and then it will end with a short clip from the statistics class. Everything I used in there can be found in the Adobe Creative Suite package, and the meat of the process uses a relatively new software called Character Animator. But I also used Illustrator to create the characters, and then I used Premiere to take the footage and compile it all for the end result. So let's pull this up. So as you see, I'm using Illustrator in this example, and on the right, it's kind of hard to see on this, but everything is tagged by like the arms and the head and the eyebrows and the eyes. And so I tag it like that so that when I import it into Character Animator, it'll recognize the body parts, and then I draw the skeleton on there so that they're rigged up for animation. And then for the face, I tag the eyes, the eyebrows, so that they are recognized by the software. So up here on the right, that's me in my cubicle, and I'm just doing a little facial motion capture, and as you see, it tracks with the character on the left. It follows the blinks, and where my eyes are turning, my eyebrows, and it allows me to actually quickly create stuff that would take a long time if you hand animate. And the next part is computing the pre-recorded audio we had into mouth shapes, and so I have like 15 different mouth shapes for all the different sounds, and it auto fills it in, and then this is what it sounds like.
The next step is to explore the data, which involves an initial look at it with graphs and summary information, like percentages or averages. Here's what I found. 100% of the people in the study drifted.
And then this next part, these are just animation loops that I created, and you can trigger them with just a keyboard button. it all together, and this is part of the video.
31 of the 32 subjects, which is about 97%, crossed the sideline corresponding to their dominant hand.
That's interesting. I wonder why the other person went the opposite way. Maybe they are ambidextrous.
We also found that males walked an average of 65.3 yards before crossing the sideline, while females walked an average of 51.4 yards before crossing the sideline.
So that was just one little snippet. And so, as you just saw, I was able to take the pre-recorded audio that was partially me, Susan, the instructor's TA, and I was able to animate each of the characters with my face and provide context to the experiment and make it more engaging. Now I will turn it back over to Susan to begin speaking about the second piece of media.
Thank you, Zach. Okay. The next course we're going to describe is cell and molecular biology. This instructor had a lecture showing very complex behavior of cell membranes. Her goal was to provide a visual representation of the interaction of the cells and to be able to confirm that the students were accurately grasping the process. To make this even more challenging, it turns out that there were no existing videos, representations of the complete start to finish process. So our very talented media team created an engaging animation illustrating the cell behavior to match the lecture content, as well as then inserting some interactive practice and quizzing elements to reinforce the learning and make it more active learning. The instructor also wanted to be able to see whether the students were going all the way through the video, watching it all the way to the end, and whether she could determine if they were correctly grasping the concepts that were being presented. So I'll turn it back over to my colleagues who are going to demonstrate video-driven learning, and take it away, Austin.
But don't start it yet.
Sorry?
Don't start it yet.
Don't start yet. Sorry,
All right.
Zach's going to do his.
So this was a collaboration, so I did the animation and he did all the VDL part, which we'll talk about in a moment. But as Susan mentioned, this is a completely different animation from the one I just showed you. This is all about like cell molecular biology. And after meeting with the instructor, we chose to animate a process that students were particularly struggling with and that occurs in the cell membrane. And although there are lots of examples of this online for free, many of them have like extra irrelevant information that's not a part of the course, or they are actually lacking specific information that is needed in the course. So using a custom animation that I'm about to show you allows the information to be, or the learning outcomes to be clear and succinct. So the way this is created, the instructor usually has a PowerPoint and they lay out a script on each slide, and then they note of how they want it to be animated. And so I have to go through and pretty much learn the science and animate it for them. So sometimes it can be pretty complicated, and usually when this happens I have to go online and find either more information, or I have to ask the instructor, hey, like, what does this mean? But there, like Susan mentioned, there was an example in this video that didn't have like any previous visual information for me to go off of, and it was more like a before and after concept in the class. Like there wasn't really anything known for the students to know about in between. So I asked the instructor, and she gave me an idea of how the process is theorized to occur. And after a few back and forth drafts, I was able to animate the part in between the before and after. And she got really excited about it, but I'll point that part out here.
So here's the experimental setup. We have 3 different cell cultures for the same types of cells that are grown. To each of these different cell cultures, a different compound is added. In one of the treatments, a compound called Fm is added. When this Fm reagent is added to the cells, any part of the protein with a portion on the extracellular side will have Fm attached, since it's only able to access the outside of the intact cells. In a separate set of cells, a compound called PAS was added. When the PAS reagent is added to the cells, it recognizes any protein that has a carbohydrate or sugar group on the outside of cells. For the last treatment, nothing is added. This serves as a control to make sure all our proteins are isolated properly in the following steps. Now that the cells were treated with the appropriate markers, the PAS and FM markers, the membrane proteins need to be isolated from the membrane
This next part
environment.
is
The way that this is done is by using detergents. When mixed with membranes, the hydrophobic ends of the detergents bind to the hydrophobic regions of the membrane proteins. This then displaces the lipid molecules. Since the other end of the detergent molecule is polar, the binding tends to bring the membrane proteins into solution as a detergent protein complex.
So what they were floating with at the end, that was the after, and the before was just the cell membrane with the detergent molecules. And so there was no visual representation of him breaking apart and kind of really dissolving the membrane and creating these lipid packets. Anyways, the instructor was very excited to show the class a better way to learn the material and have them be more engaged into the content. As you can see, there's a question up here in the middle of the video, and so this brings me to Austin.
Hi. Thanks, Zach. Before I jump into what I did for this interactive video, I thought I'd expand a little bit more about what I do at Ecampus. I lead a very talented team of web developers, and we're tasked with building applications to help increase and track student engagement. One of the apps we developed is VDL, which is an interactive video platform that adds interactivity to videos and provides useful analytics to instructors. VDL is what we'll be using in this example today. As Susan mentioned, I'll go and answer one of these. Oops. As Susan mentioned, when the instructor for this course came to me, she had an awesome animation that Zach built, but she wanted to make the content more engaging and also wanted to see how effective it would be in her course. As you've seen on the screen, we added a variety of questions throughout her video to not only provide knowledge checks, but to keep the students engaged and interested in what they're watching. So you may ask yourself, if all we added to the video was a bunch of questions, why not offer a video and a quiz separately? Interactive video is an incredibly powerful tool because it allows students to answer questions on content that's fresh in their minds, which helps reinforce the concepts they are being presented. It prevents students from skipping lectures or videos and just taking a quiz, and it provides analytics that helps instructors determine what students are struggling with and how effective their videos are at pushing concepts. Aside from questions, we're able to offer a wide variety of interactivity to our instructors. We can do branching, where if a student gets an answer wrong, we can branch them off to another video or set of questions to help reinforce the concept that they're not getting. We can also bring in custom web interactives that our team builds, like drag and drop phylogeny trees for fish and wildlife courses, a food label assembler for nutrition courses, and even 3D models of skulls for students to explore and rotate. The last thing I wanted to show you was a brief peek at what our analytics dashboard looks like.
Can you just show us the interaction there?
Yeah, I think the right answer is here. When students answer these questions, the instructor has the ability or the option to add custom feedback for each question. It just depends on how much work they want to put into it. So this could just be like a correct, right or wrong. Sometimes they don't want students to see the feedback, so it'll just be like, it's more of an assessment. Like at the end, they'll be like, you got 50%.
We have a question in the back.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, this is an in-house platform? And what
Yes.
was the name?
It's called VDL. It stands for Video-Driven Learning, and it's something that we built in-house.
And what software did you use to create the animation?
The animation, I used Illustrator to draw everything, and then I used After Effects to animate the motion.
About how long does it take you to do a project in a suite like this?
I mean, it really depends on the information or how long the video is. Typically, how
For
long.
this particular one, how long it is and everything?
It's about 3 or 4 weeks.
How long a day? I mean, just like in terms of.
I probably spend 4 hours a day in development on it.
Yeah, and as far as the interactive video, that's about a 5-minute process, just taking the information from the instructor and putting it in.
The instructors.
Sold yourself.
Yeah.
It also depends a lot on the feedback you get from the instructor. Some scientific courses, they're like, well, it has to be right. you can't, there's no fudging in it or anything like that. So I have to go back and forth until it's correct, as opposed to if it was like a motion graphic for just information that looks nicer. If it doesn't look as beautiful as another video, then that's what they get. But
What about the one with the people animated? About how long does something like that take?
So that one is interesting because the bulk of the work is at the beginning. So I probably spent like a similar amount of time creating the characters and rigging them up because I had to do multiple characters. And once you have them as puppets, and I mean, I'm not like an actor or anything, but I got pretty good at moving my eyebrows and like doing that kind of stuff. And so once you have the puppets, you can pretty much just act it out in like 10, 20 minutes, and then you'd export the character as its own file. And that's why I said I use Premiere, is because once I have all 3 characters, I threw them all into Premiere, and then it was pretty much ready to go right then.
Have you guys we are licensed yet?
We have not.
You never know.
Yeah.
Victor,
It's above my
any-
pay grade.
any-
but- Yes.
My question, going back to the video with the characters, do you recycle them or do you prefer that every course has a different completely?
Yes, I definitely recycle them, especially
And it's not that long in the next one.
Yeah.
especially because I actually have a diverse set of characters of different genders, different ethnicities, and it's the nice thing is I can always change skin color or change hair or move features around without having to create another character from scratch. And so
So basically, you can just keep building your library.
Yes.
As the
yes.
terms go by.
Mhm.
And since it's a new software, more and more features keep coming out, and so like there's walk cycles now, and like they're kind of weird, but like they'll probably just get better. It's only been out for like 3 or 4 years, I think.
Would you ever share your library of characters either through an OER license or a pay per character type of feature?
I mean, I'd be down, but I mean,
It's above our pay grade. It's above our pay grade.
Another thing about the characters, though, is since it's a new software and they want people to use it, they actually provide a lot of characters that are already rigged, and some of them do way more cool stuff. You can like trigger them to like have things explode, and I don't know. They're more like a lot of people use it for like fun little cartoons for their like YouTube videos.
Build this.
But yeah, there's also you can buy puppets too. So there are third-party companies that do this and create business-looking puppets so that you don't have to have a little monster that's for free.
And I will say, like at the end of our presentation, we do have a resource slide where it will show you a lot of resources to try and do this yourself if you don't have like a team. So real quick, I'll jump back into this. The last thing I wanted to show was a brief peek at what our analytics dashboard looks like. Just to note, I didn't want to share student data, so what I show you here is data from another video that doesn't collect identifiable information. From this dashboard, instructors are able to access a view that shows them student viewing patterns as well as reports of how they answered questions in aggregate as well as individually. These graphs can provide great insight into what students are doing while watching videos, such as muting, using captions, skipping or rewinding, minimizing the window, and of course how well they're doing answering questions. And this video doesn't have a lot to it, but you can kind of see there that at that first question it looks like 2 students like dropped off. And you can also see like with mutes and captions, sometimes students don't want to actually listen to what you're saying, like they're listening to their music or doing something while your video is playing. So sometimes that's insightful to teachers because maybe the students don't want to watch what you're doing or they minimize their window. So maybe the visual stuff in your video isn't getting across to the students because they're not actually seeing the video. We've had a lot of courses though where that's been really helpful, where instructors might have had more dry content where they're talking directly into a camera for a lecture, and being able to see the analytics of people dropping off or not being as interested allowed them to create cool videos with Zach, where we then see more students stick around and want to engage with the content. Yeah, so there is I forget what you call it, terms of use now. We do let them know that we are collecting analytics on what they're doing. Having a tool that shows low engagement can be a great catalyst to evolving your content and exploring ways to increase student interest. Interactive video has been a great boon to our courses and has really helped our team be efficient and increase the quality of our course content.
Okay,
Yes.
back to PowerPoint.
Yeah. There you go.
Cool. Thank you, Leston. All right. The last example that we're going to talk about is allied health microbiology. This instructor wanted to align her eCampus content, her online curriculum, with her on-campus offering. And one element in that on-campus offering is a hands-on lab. And she wasn't sure how to fulfill that lab piece because the lab activity is for the students to take antibiotics and apply them to bacteria in a petri dish and then measure the effectiveness. Well, you can't really do that in an at-home kitchen lab. That would be a little dangerous, right? So we were like, how are we going to provide that same outcome? And the solution was that the team created a virtual lab, basically. This activity authentically replicates the behavior between the bacterias and the different antibiotics that are applied to them, and it provides the students with accurate and realistic results. And back to Austin to show the demonstration of a custom interactive lab.
Exciting. All right. Thanks, Susan. I would say a good portion of the projects we work on inside of our team are finding clever ways to translate on-campus experiences to online experiences. And this project is a great example of that. The instructor for this course emphasized to us that this lab was core to the students' learning experience and wasn't something we could really, show a video of. She wanted students to be able to experience this. The only issue was the lab would be next to impossible to offer to distance students due to the cost and materials used. Because we have some talented individuals on our team, we chose to recreate the lab as a React web application. Real quickly, I will run through the example to kind of show you how it works. So first off, they have like a workbook that they're filling out and then they submit to their instructor that kind of goes through all these different antibiotic combinations. So first you'll choose what your bacteria is. I'll choose E. coli. And we have like a little animation of it going in and infecting the petri dish. And then there's a list of different antibiotics. And the students will click on one. So we'll do tetracycline. And one of the things that's really important you'll see down here is that the instructor, beyond just giving them the answers, she wanted to really simulate what scientists would go through doing these experiments. And one of the things that comes up a lot is like this process for some of these takes 1 to 2 days, and it's kind of annoying to wait for these results. So even though we couldn't simulate 2 days waiting for these results, waiting like 20 to 30 seconds can really, I have to go through this process 20 times, and it gets annoying. But it shows them information about like what the temperature is, and it kind of simulates that time. And then they get this table that pops up on the right side where they'll match up what bacteria they had and what antibiotic. And then they go over here, and this gray thing there is the zone of inhibition. And apparently, like when you put the antibiotic in, there will be like this colored thing that grows. And that tells you whether or not it was effective or not, because you'll take the measurement that you get of the diameter, I believe, and you'll go over to the table and be like, well, I have tetracycline E. coli. If it's 15 to 18, it's intermediate, but it's over 19, so it's susceptible, which means it's effective at treating that bacteria. And the students would basically go through this lab a lot, back and forth, and fill out their notebook and submit it to the instructor. But she really loved it because it really simulated what she was doing in the classroom, and a lot of the concepts of it and the things that she wanted to push, kind of got conveyed. I think one of the biggest takeaways I can give to you for this example is to be creative. I imagine not everyone has the resources our team does, but I don't think that limits you in providing on-campus experiences online. One example of a way you could accomplish this without having to write any code like we did is having the instructor take photos of all the variations of the lab results, then constructing a PowerPoint where you can choose a bacteria and an antibiotic and kind of route them to different slides that show what that result would be. You just have to be creative with the resources you have, and a lot of times you can still come up with quality results. Yeah?
Why did the instructors respond animation prefer?
She wanted the students to actually choose and get their kind of more of an active learning rather than passively watching it on a video. That was her personal preference. So she wanted them to choose the bacteria, choose the antibiotic, place it on the petri dish. She felt that that was just more engaging. But you're right, it could be.
The same program design, but with an actual video. And
With an actual what?
With an actual video and then show
Oh.
information on your.
Yeah, there's always more than one way to deliver the outcomes. You're right. This was just what she wanted. She wanted a virtual simulation. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic job, you guys. I'm just wondering about cost. Obviously what you do when you customize it yourself is pretty much infinite, right? You can get anything you want, with the resources you have. But there are tools like Articulate that can help you achieve some of the same things at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
So why is your organization choosing to go this route rather than using Kaltura or something like that to make the quizzes or existing tool that you can hire a specialist to do rather than highly experienced?
For the interactive video part, I can kind of answer
Yeah,
that one. Like
please.
about a year and a half or 2 years ago, we kind of did a study with all the interactive video platforms that were out there, and we couldn't really find one that did everything that we wanted to do or collected all the data that we needed or got questions like something that wasn't shown in the videos. We do have a lot of interactives in our videos that aren't just like a basic multiple choice question. It can get more into like web interactives that we build out. I think we have a lot more control over quality. We really strive to put out AAA level quality content, and having it through like Kaltura and stuff doesn't allow us to have that control, and it also doesn't allow us to get the data that we need for our university.
As far as feasibility, do you always need AAA, or sometimes it's like just AA or similar? I mean, is that in your toolbox? Is that in your toolbox?
We do. So that is true. Sometimes, don't know how to phrase this one, but there's some courses where it's like we could just put out a Kaltura interactive video and that's totally fine. And some of our we have a large team of instructional designers, and we really try to find cases where it makes sense to go above and beyond and stuff like that.
So what are some of those criteria, the cases that you typically promote based on research and creating some of those? Is that like shouldn't be high enrollment for us?
It's a variety of things. I mean, we have enrollment. There's some courses or some programs that we want to make sure get out there and attract a lot more students in. So I think that's more of a management level, but we kind of determine which ones are we trying to like shoot for the moon with, and and then instructors. That's another thing. So even some of these lower enrollment classes and stuff like that, they do have the ability to ask us for these things too. So they could get a Kaltura interactive video, or they could get like just a basic animation. But they have the ability to come and say, actually, I'd really like this because I saw this in another course, and we can deliver it then too.
So on that, how often is your request capacity exceeding your production capacity?
So I can't speak. So we have a few little divisions inside of our multimedia team. I mainly deal with the applications and the web development, stuff like that. Our team has really moved towards platforms. We have a number of platforms besides VDL to where we're basically managing software and adding features, and we're able to pump out a lot of stuff. So it used to be when I first came on, my capacity was like 10 projects a term or something like that, and they were very custom interactives. But now we've moved to where we can deliver really high quality content, but we were able to do it in a lot larger scale. So now instead of doing like 10, me and my team can do 100 plus interactives spread out across courses. Yeah, about 2 years ago it was more of like we're just doing one-offs every single time. But I would say about a year ago we made the decision to start building our own software because it would allow us to get the results that we were looking for. Yes?
So I liked with your interactive video, as opposed to like Kaltura or Edpuzzle, that it also tracked muting and minimization. But in the age where we've got multiple tabs, can it detect that that's not the main tab?
Yes.
I just did my FERPA thing again.
Yeah.
I did have it on the tab, and I was doing something else, just answering my questions.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm doing that.
Yeah. So it is depending on browser. All the ones that are based off of Chrome, so like Edge and Safari, like those type of browsers, I will get that information, so I can tell if they minimize the entire window, The analytics are going to show up in the same category, so it's still going to say it's minimized, but I can tell if they're on a different tab. If the window loses focus. There's actually a few other analytic points that are being captured that we're not actually showing yet, but it's more just because we don't not trust them, but like, they're not as useful yet. But I think that's actually the biggest thing. So like, aside from Kaltura, because I've played around with Kaltura a lot and a lot of these other video platforms, I don't know about other universities, but analytics aren't available to instructors at our university. It's only available to administrators, and instructors have to ask for access. The very cool thing about this for us is that we have these really in-depth analytics that instructors can, like, in real time go look and see how their class is doing. And we've had instructors kind of adjust their content for later in the term because they realize, oh, this isn't clicking very well, or this way of teaching isn't doing very well. So they're able to adjust their content later on. So I think that, like, you could say we could put this in Kaltura and there's questions for both of them. But this really helps us for what we're trying to do.
Just one more slide.
We have a Q&A session at the end.
Yeah, and we're going to hang around. So I'm just going to wrap up and summarize what we covered. So in all 3 courses, we had specific and meaningful ways to solve the instructors' challenges and help them meet the intended learning outcomes. The media increased student engagement and interest. It enhanced the acquisition of the knowledge and information. It supported the students' retention, and it gave the instructors insight into the quality of their students' comprehension and learning. For me, the key takeaways are that media can truly transform the course from mundane to magical. There are lots of resources that are available to help achieve these kinds of results, and using these kinds of creative approaches allows us to develop online learning that really gives the students the tools that they need to succeed. So now here's our official Q&A session. So keep on asking questions. I'll let you guys take it.
How do you deal with like students who are on throttle devices or just maybe have like a mobile device as opposed to a laptop?
So all these, are you talking about the interactive video or like the lab? Doesn't matter.
Well, the lab was just React, right? So it should be responsive.
Yeah, so everything that we put out is responsive and accessible, and that's on all devices. The video uses a technology called HLS, which allows it. That was originally made for iPhones. So we have, like, let's say some 4K video. It's going to, change the quality to make it so that you should be able to get it semi-fast. I mean, if you're on like a 2G connection, it doesn't matter what site you're going to, you're not going to get very much. But all this stuff will work perfectly on mobile. Everything we build, we try to create the exact same experience for mobile, tablet, and on larger desktops.
Oh, and kind of added to your question. So I'm Victor. I'm one of the assistant directors of the course building training. So before a student registers for one of these classes, there's this disclaimer on the course catalog. They need a high-speed connection. So students are aware before going into the class of what technology.
Are you still using Kaltura for the back end on the video, or?
Yes, we are. So the platform that we have a variety of platforms that we host our videos on. Like some videos are on YouTube, some are on Kaltura, but it's able to take any of those and just plug it straight in.
So VDL doesn't have to be built.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
So the motion capture work, did I hear you say that you used After Effects for that?
So I used Character Animator, which actually, if you buy After Effects just standalone, not with the suite, it actually comes with, or Character Animator comes with After Effects. So they kind of work together. It's a very similar interface. It's just a standalone thing now, but it used to be a beta, I think, 3 years ago.
Is it all in the creative class?
Yes, so if you get the whole suite, you get Character Animator. It's probably one of those the 30 apps that you never see, but I haven't touched a lot of their apps either.
And real quick, and these I think will be available afterwards online. We tried to come up with a few resources to help you guys, and there's obviously a lot here that probably, there's a lot that's missing in this list. Like I think there's somebody out in the hallway from the people who make Camtasia. But some of these, so code your own, that sounds really daunting, but honestly, when you start to think about this stuff, like it's not that complicated of a piece of software. So if you are into coding or ever were interested, like that'd be a really fun project. H5P, I think somebody was speaking about that, but some of our instructional designers really like using H5P. YouTube, I found some people online who do using clever ways to make YouTube interactive. Wirewax, HappyHack, and Kaltura, those are all paid options, but they offer interactive video.
Yeah, and the slides are, uploaded, so if you download them, the links, will be live. So you can go directly to where those are located.
And as far as animation goes, it's kind of hard to have a free animation software without having all the features. So that's just kind of the pricing model that a lot of them have. So there's Animaker and there's Powtoon. So you can get those for free and you can see whether you like them or not. But you have limited features that they are pretty expensive. So to get the full version, and I haven't used them myself, but I've seen videos of them and it looks pretty intuitive. They look very accessible for people who aren't very skilled at animation or never really went too deep into it. As far as Character Animator and After Effects goes, depending on whether you have an enterprise model for your university or college, it is a lot lower cost than paying for the full version of like Animaker or Powtoon, but the learning curve is quite steep initially, and then once you get that down, you can do animations.
Cool.
Any other questions?
Other questions? We finished a little early.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Yeah, the water's over there. Well, here's a glass. It's on that table to the side.
You want your USB stick?
Oh yeah, that'll probably be good.
We do. All right.
It's 0 o'clock. Now I have a weekend.
Are you leaving right now?
These were all STEM courses.
Yeah.
Do the humanities folks get?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We would. So the reason we did the STEM is because those were all courses I developed, and that's why I'm here doing the part of the presentation. So we have other people who do foreign language courses. I rarely get those assigned to me. But there's ways to include media.
I've done quite a bit of Spanish interactive using articulate storyline. We are trying to move away from it though, just because the control factor we want to control. Part of it.
I completely agree. You get to the point where the tool no longer does it.
Yeah.
And you've got talent.
Yeah, exactly.
Celebrate the talent.
Well, thanks for coming.
So I wanted to kind of pick you guys' brain because I noticed that on the React and JavaScript ones, how do you deal with students who are proficient enough to go into their inspector and be like, answers?
So we actually have students. So we React's obviously the front end of our application. We use serverless and AWS. We actually don't send the correct answers to the application. It's getting that back. So all we're sending is what the responses are, and then the back end is delivering back saying, "Good job." And then that's tied to their personal identifier. Like we have a CAS login, so we're able to track their answers back. We do have a
exactly. That's why we chose, by the way,
so we have quite a
to
few things that
do
flag it.
real voices, and then
a different type.
Correct, exactly. Especially in a foreign language class,
Okay.
if you have a real native
I always
speaker
find it
of the
funny.
language, that would be
Yeah.
way more effective
Like,
than using
You're spending
anything
more
that's
time
simulated.
looking at it that
What
else?
video.
I was just gonna say thank you.
You could actually, I mean,
You're welcome, thanks.
you could
I'm glad
obfuscate
you
it,
came.
like you could
Yeah,
see the information,
that's
like when you're sending over the data for your application and you're saying, here's the right answers and stuff, you could obfuscate them so it's not like, here's the question number, here's the right answer. You know, you could like hash the information that's coming to you and then unhash it and then store it in like Redux or State or something. Nice. Yeah, if you I actually don't have cards, which is awesome. But if you guys ever have any questions,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have cards either.
Bring it in.
Yeah.
We didn't think about it.
It happens. Well, thanks for coming, guys. Do you guys program or what do you guys do?
I am the webmaster / web developer at UCC.
Cool.
He does institutional research.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And we both teach. We're multimedia design. Teaching the programs.
Yeah, I'm actually really sad that our order wasn't here.
You would really like this.
Yeah.
And are all your slides and everything up on?
Yep. Yeah, and then my email address is on there too, so if you guys ever have any questions or anything else comes up.
Pretty sure our department director will want to get all of you guys.
Sounds good.
That's some stuff that we were interested in.
Exciting. Awesome. Thank you. Hope you guys have a great day.
So it depends on what the instructor's looking for.
Yeah, just resume. That's fine.
Pay them more.
Huh?
Well, we pay them more than enough.
Oh, no.
We're done.
Yesterday they changed up the structure of the presentation, so I had to rewrite it parts of the
Oh no, it's good flow. Yeah, nice job. Trying to figure out how are they actually recording this?
I have no idea. I think they were using software.
There's no software.
But you can have all the interactivity.
Oh, is that the Panap? Oh, so usually Panap. Interesting.
Instructors can get invited.
Seems a little risky. Somebody could just shut down the computer.
Yeah, we're partners with them.
Yeah. And this thing doesn't even work, huh?
Which one are you going to next?
I don't know. Did you guys try turning it on?
The little clicker?
Yeah.
I don't know. Susan did too.
There's an on button here.
I know the instructor doesn't pay for an online course.
Yeah.
They pay you extra?
I mean, I don't.
You have no idea.
Yeah, I'm just.
I was just wondering.
Just a little tiny developer.
Probably you probably would know because the people that they charge us.
Okay.
So you would know. Probably they know. Oh, but that was very interesting.
Yeah, but thank you for that idea with incorporating the.
That would be so
Yeah,
cool.
that'd be like
I would
the-
really
the
give,
tipping
or at
point.
least even at the end, like just show them end results, like just show the picture because it doesn't make sense. Thank you so much.
Yep.
How big's your team?
Depends on how you look at the team. I'm
So
a
multimedia developers.
So there's 4 of me, 4 custom, and then there's 3 options, so that's web. So 7, and then there's 4 videographer type people, so that's 11. And there's electric recorder, 12. Yeah, about 12. It's pretty big, I'd say. Especially the video team and the lecture team who weren't here today at all, they put out lots of videos, and it's very standard. So that the instructor comes in, they record, we have a team that edits it, and then puts it up. So you can put up hundreds of videos internally. as opposed to
More traditional talking lecture.
So I might not affect a lot of people, but I'm hoping to affect certain groups really well.
People who have been teaching for a while and realize that that talking head stuff only goes so far. And then,
I know people who take the courses too. I have some friends that are still in college and all that. They'll like comment like, "Did you do this?" or like, "Who did this?" And I was like, "Oh, that was my buddy at work." And it's just kind of cool that I could hear that personalized like excitement.
I'm Jeff. I'm in U of O.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yay! Our neighbors down the road.
Where
How
we
nice.
have a very, very small. You can only go up.
Yeah, right. It's great to see.
Great job, Susan.
Thank you, and you guys too. It was excellent.
Great job, Susan.
Well, we made a good team.
Every day.
I'm happy with how it all turned out. Yeah, exactly. I feel like I got all the content at this point. Somebody in that room is going to I know, it is. You should see the video. I like Amber. Right up until I give up my old one. I'm still using it. Well, see, and the thing is, like, especially when I'm teaching at 2:15, it's cumbersome to use the keyboard and mouse. I know that. I want to walk. I mean, it's nice being tethered last time. I was teaching more fast. See, and I like that. That's why I brought it up. I write more than tired than more than No.
Yeah, I mean, that would be beneficial. That little, I mean, that little icon are enough for you to see what I'm talking about. I love that little watch because I can see my presentation in front of me. Yes, I know. And I still hear it, so I can look at it. Oh, you've got a question. It's right next door. No, there's no meeting that are like, I'm like, no, this is not set up as that. Always prepared. That's right. Yes, I have two that are last. I think she might be. Wait, maybe not. I can go on the other side. Yeah. Oh, they're on this.
You guys want to sit together?
Oh, I mean, sure, if you're down with it. Thanks. That's awesome.
Practicing airline social practices.
There you go. Yeah.
Hey, I was hoping I would see you today.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
You guys were
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're willing to spend some money, I went to the Jackalope Grill last night.
What was it?
Jackalope Grill. Jackalope Grill. Very French. They've got nachos at this menu right now. They're going to do German.
Okay.
Pasta dish with wild boar ragu.
Whoa. Wow.
So
wild boar.
Plate wise, it's like 25, 30
For entrees, yeah.
We went to the Deschutes Brewery too. That was really good. Yeah, their pretzel with the cheese sauce was amazing. I mean, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah.
It looks like fancy dining. That's not what it's
Right.
And then
that sounds really
I just
good.
remember the two.
Yeah. So one of our friends who loves men, she told us to try Goldie's barbecue also. And so we didn't get a chance to try that one, but I love a good barbecue.
I live in Bend. Are you?
Oh, perfect.
We're just talking food.
Yeah.
Robin's is like my favorite place to go. Like my kids like Robin's.
Okay.
There's also wine that is like my favorite.
Oh, nice. Okay.
What do you guys
Ah.
want to do?
I was open to anything. I was just like, where are the good questions?
Yeah.
And like a couple. And these two, when they were presenting, were
Yeah. Well, and that is just, I mean, this is a movie window.
Our
It's
best
really,
restaurant
yeah.
is Ariana on Gallup.
Oh, okay.
And it's the best food in Bend.
Wow.
So
Ariana.
Okay.
It's a super tiny little house on Galveston. It's got some mountain next to it. There's like a mama or multimedia for They're
that's awesome. Thank you.
But if you want to want to go. Where blocks you want to go. I love helping people find.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't know what that is.
Oh,
Weird. Yeah. We have to go. I guess they're not using Clear anymore. They are. Oh, okay. Yeah. And then there should be an option. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. So if you click on use another account, and then it should give you the option to remove other accounts.